1 year and hundreds of flights later, my first impressions of the DJI Avata 2 have been completely flipped on their head.
From initially questioning its capabilities,
to relying on it for some of the craziest shots I've gotten around the world.
Holy sh!
This drone has surprised me.
So, let's see where the DJI Avata 2 exceeded my expectations, where it still falls short, and if it's still worth getting today.
Make sure you stay until the end, because there is one point about this drone that changes everything, and it might not be what you expect. The Avata 2 is DJI's third take on a FPV, or first-person view drone, where you wear these goggles and you basically get to be immersed in the flight of the drone. This differentiates it from DJI's other drones, such as the Mavic, Mini, and Air series, which are regular drones that you don't necessarily need goggles to fly. You just fly from a screen. It flies a lot more chill. Meanwhile, this feels much more dynamic, faster, and immersive, which is why I love it. It's classified as a Cinewhoop, where as opposed to open blade drones, these things have prop ducts and guards so that when you make contact with something, you're not gonna cut it. For the camera, it is equipped with an 04 air unit transition. So it is streaming clear 1080p to your goggles, and it is recording up to 4K 60 frames per second in D-Log M, which is great because then you have space to color grade. It's designed to bind primarily with the DJI Goggles 3 and the FPV Remote 3, as well as the RC Motion Controller 3. But it also offers backwards compatibility with DJI's previous series, the FPV Goggles 2, Goggles Integra, and the FPV Remote 2. I've organized the info I've collected over the years into pros and cons for you to better understand. Let's go with cons first. The biggest gripe that FPV pilots have about these fully built DJI drones is that they are fully proprietary. Think of it like a Mac versus a PC. A PC, you can choose your graphics card, you can choose your RAM, your motherboard, and you can really go to town customizing it exactly to your liking. With a Mac, or in this case, the Avata, you get what you get. Once you buy this drone, you are locked into the system. You have to buy their batteries, their goggles, their remotes. You can't switch parts internally, or you can try, but it breaks your warranty. And if you ever do break it, it's not the easiest to fix. This can be a big turnoff for people who want full customization and ability to fix their own drones. And I think one of the most painful parts of the Avata 2 is honestly the price of these batteries. For reference, batteries for FPV drones of this power and size can run you between $20, $30, $40. These guys, they're going for at least $100 a pop. And yes, that is painful, but later I'll explain why these batteries cost so much and what potentially makes them worth it. On replacements, the drone itself when you buy it is a little bit under $500 currently. To subscribe to DJI Refresh Care, it costs $59 for 1 year and $99 for 2. And when you are in that period of coverage, the price to replace the drone is $50 for your first replacement and then $200 for your second and onward. This could be seen as a con if you wanted to go the custom built route, because with that, you have the flexibility to buy parts and then solder and replace them yourself, if you have the knowledge and you're willing to put in the time to learn. It does beat buying a whole new $500 drone as opposed to having a subscription and then paying about $100 for at least one replacement. I have noticed in myself though that when flying the Avata 2, I take a little bit less risk than I would with my custom built drones, because I don't want to have to send it in and wait for it to be repaired. So on that note, that does kind of suck, especially when the ethos behind flying FPV has been about learning through crashing. When seeing the build of this Avata 2, it's made of this plastic polycarbonate material that doesn't feel the strongest, honestly. Like, you can kind of feel it giving when you do this to it, as opposed to your custom drones that are built of carbon fiber. Even though they're thin, carbon fiber has this rigidity to it, and you can really feel how solid it is. However, I'd be lying if I said I haven't crashed this thing a couple times within the year, and it still looks pretty clean. Like, I don't see any scratches or gives in the material, even though it's taken impacts on the ducts. So overall, pretty dang good. And once again, because the drone can't really be customized, you're kind of stuck with the flight characteristics it has on board, which aren't the best, especially compared to what used to be my go-to Cinewhoop of a similar size, the Newbie Drone Cinema. It's extremely powerful, responsive, and I feel the lack of that sometimes in the Avata 2. This thing does go fast, but I have noticed that once this battery starts to reach about 40%, you start to feel a pretty noticeable sag in the thrust. When I say sag, I mean that the drone requires more thrust and more stick power to stay afloat and to do the same speed as it would when it's higher battery. This is apparent in most drones, but it's especially apparent in the Avata. And I've heard that this is a big reason a lot of people flying in manual mode who are still new or even experienced end up crashing.
Waves. Holy shit, that was close. Oh man, that was close.
Also, being a Cinewhoop, it is not as powerful as a unducted 5-inch FPV drone would be. You're not gonna be able to rip at 100 miles per hour or do crazy throttle tricks. It's noticeably slower than what racing and freestyle pilots are using for their flights. So if you wanna go really, really fast, then you might wanna look into other options such as 5-inch drones. But this guy, because it's a Cinewhoop, it's meant to fly a little bit more gradually. However, that doesn't mean that it doesn't have power, and we'll go into that later. Let's talk a little bit about the camera restrictions. So like I said, you are stuck with the camera that you get. You can mount another camera to the top of this drone. I originally wasn't sure while I was writing this video, but then I tested the bad idea mount that original Dobo designed, which allows you to basically put an action camera on top of the Avata 2. It felt really sketchy, at least when I was first putting it on, but to my surprise, it actually flew pretty well. And I'll put the side-by-side comparison footage of the 04 to the GoPro 11 that I have right now. Another gripe I have with the Avata 2 is that it doesn't film in my favorite frame rate, which is 24 frames per second. This is the frame rate that a majority of movies and films are shot on. I know that they updated the 04 Air unit you can put in custom drones to fly in 48, so you can half that perfectly. But I don't think we've seen that with the Avata yet. I don't know why. It should be a pretty easy implementation. If there's a space or if there's a place that's closer to an airport or closer to a place you're not supposed to be flying, they're going to kick in this lock. And you can't get this lock off until you connect your goggles to your phone with a cable. And there's been a couple times when I wasn't used to this or I just forgot a USB cable and I wasn't able to unlock the airspace even though I had clearance. Sometimes the unlocking process is weird and it doesn't always work. So this has been a gripe of mine, but overall I think it's a good safety implementation just so newer pilots don't go flying into places they're not supposed to. So I've shared with you my list of cons I've stacked against the Avata 2. Now let's move on to the pros, including that game-changing feature I'll talk about soon. Because the Avata 2 is proprietary to DJI, they have designed it in a way where it works seamlessly together. Although I know how to build, I'm definitely by no means the best builder, and I would rather trust someone like a factory with quality assurance that has a whole team behind it working to make sure this drone works. And that's where I feel the Avata 2 brings me peace of mind. And because of this unified system, DJI has taken the liberty to implement so many features into a drone of this price and of this size that you wouldn't be able to see anywhere in the custom market. As I get into the pros, let me explain where I'm coming from as a creator. I'm not looking for the biggest, most high-tech rig. I'm looking for convenience. I'm looking for portability so that when I travel, I have something that works and I don't have to carry around a lot of stuff and it's going to work reliably. And because of that, this Avata 2 has fit so surprisingly well into my workflow. The first thing I want to talk about is the convenience. For my custom setups, if I want to travel with them, I have to bring the drone, the remote, the goggles, charger, and at least 4 to 6 to 10 batteries, because the batteries on custom built FPV drones tend to last anywhere between 3 to 6 minutes each. That's been the standard for the longest time. The charger itself is not the most portable thing. I typically have to bring not only it, but also a parallel board if I want to charge multiple batteries at a time, the wall plug to plug it into the wall, and also an extra travel adapter to plug it into whatever country's wall I'm using. Safety-wise, these chargers can also be dangerous if you don't use them correctly. You can ask it to charge at a higher amperage than it's recommended, and if you aren't keeping an eye on it, it has been known to catch things on fire. I don't want to have to be worrying about that when I'm traveling. The Avata 2, on the other hand, I just have to bring my goggles, drone, and remote. 3 batteries is what I've been working off the past year because the charger itself is just this small hollow block, very compressed, that you slide the batteries into, and it's powered by USB-C. The Avata 2 battery, this $100 little guy flies between 10 to 16 minutes per flight. And it doesn't sound like a big difference, but in my experience, being able to charge these Avata 2 batteries off of USB-C has been a lifesaver for me. And because each Avata 2 battery is not only about 40% lighter than each of these LiPos I'd be traveling with, but it also lasts 2 to 4 times as long, I don't have to bring as many LiPos. And these things, they add up weight-wise very quickly in your payload. I'll show a comparison of what it looks like bringing my custom-built drone with my other camera accessories versus the Avata 2 setup with the charger. And I think you will see the difference I'm talking about. When it comes to ease, what you can expect from a typical FPV drone flying experience is what we call acro or manual mode. This is the mode where all stabilizers are off. You can flip, you can go upside down, you can dive and drop the power of the drone so that you can control it as best as your ability allows you to. Now, this is still one of the best modes to fly FPV in because this is what gives you the most possibilities. However, if you're trying to get into FPV or you want to have a couple more safety features installed, just like DJI's other drones, the Avata 2 is one of the only FPV drones that has these smart modes built into it. And there's a couple reasons I love this feature. One being with my regular custom FPV drones, the batteries being about 4 to 5 minutes, I'd probably have to land somewhere which is not always possible when you're on a shoot or you're flying out far. However, with the Avata 2, if I ever feel like I need a moment or if I need to be in a position without landing, I can do that because I have the technology and I have the flight time. And that is a huge game changer for me. And this tool the Avata 2 exclusively pairs with, which I don't recommend using to get pro at it, but it's a great feature for people who want to get into it quickly and fly intuitively, is the RC Motion Controller 3. This thing makes flying the drone very, very intuitive. You essentially just point in the direction you want to fly, you press the throttle down, and it flies in that direction. People have started flying successfully without crashing on their first day using this. And that says a lot for an FPV drone because that's almost never the case. But once again, if you're trying to do this professionally or you want to really get good at FPV, I wouldn't recommend the RC Motion Controller 3. I'd recommend learning on something like the FPV Remote Controller 3 because it is more like your standard FPV drone controller. But custom FPV pilots know that once you get on the sticks of a real drone for the first time, the chances of you crashing it are very, very high. But because the Avata 2 has the capabilities of normal and sports mode built into it, you don't have to go straight into manual. You can start flying with normal and sports mode, which hold the altitude of the drone when you're not doing anything. You don't have to worry about it falling out of the air, and there is smart landing and smart return to home features built into it so that you can get home safely without worrying about totaling your drone into the ground on your first flight. When talking about the Avata 2 camera, it's probably best to compare it to that of a action camera that you'd mount on top of a custom built drone or an O4 Air unit that you put into a custom drone. One of the reasons I've loved using the Avata 2 over custom drones over the last year is because for my custom drones, I have to guess what I'm getting. When I'm filming with something that is not the O4 Air unit, the view we're seeing out of our goggles to pilot is not the same view we're getting from the camera. They're operating on 2 different systems. This is just a separate camera mounted to the top. So that means I don't know exactly how I'm framing. It's approximate, but it's not the same. And I also don't know when this stops recording because that's happened multiple times where I'm like, that was a great flight. I come back, for some reason, the camera's not rolling. Either it died or it glitched out and my heart just breaks. It's so sad. I get sad just thinking about it. But with the Avata 2, the camera that you are seeing out of, which is the O4 Air unit, is the same camera that is recording. So the footage that I'm getting from my goggles feed is now basically exactly the same as what I'm going to get in my final image. And even that small change is huge. Not only that, but now I can monitor when I'm recording in my goggles feed. I no longer have to have anxiety if my top camera is recording or not. I can see it and I can confirm it while I'm flying. And trust me, when you're working on professional sets, whether or not you're recording is the last thing you want to worry about. So this feature on its own is already such a huge benefit for me. Now, I know we talked about how the Avata 2, especially when the battery gets low, lacks in performance compared to some of the custom setups. But overall, I'm giving it a lot of shit. This thing actually flies pretty dang good. I've freestyled with this before, and to be honest, my flight style isn't insanely tricky and freestyly. I'm flying to tell a story. I'm typically not flying that fast, unless I'm chasing a car or something, and 85 to 90% of the time, this drone has done the job perfectly for me. So for my own film style and needs, I've loved the Avata 2. If you're not seeing yourself going over 35 miles per hour constantly, then you should be fine, because the top speed of this Avata is still pretty fast. This thing tops out at like 65 miles per hour. If you want to chase a high-speed car, then you're gonna have to go with a 5-inch or bigger, higher power drone. But for what this drone is, being protected, ducted, and still being able to fly in manual freestyle mode, still is pretty great. Before we get to the biggest points of the video, if you're curious about pursuing FPV not only as a hobby, but also as a potential form of good income, I've been working really hard on this 7-day free email course where I teach you the last 10 years of my production, video, and drone experience on how you can get your first $1,000 client with FPV and more. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and check out the link below. I promise you, you will get something, if not many things from it. This is the thing. This is the thing I did not think I would use this much, but it's changed the way that I fly FPV, and it's kind of unlocked a new style that I don't see a lot of people doing. I'm gonna share it with you now. When it comes to custom-built drones of this size and price, what you're dealing with is typically a fixed camera that is screwed on at a certain angle, and that angle dictates the speed and the level that the camera can face when it's flying. If you wanted your drone to fly faster, you'd tilt your camera angle up. That way, when you are pitching forward and your drone is thrusting forward faster, your camera angle is more level. However, the reason this is restrictive is because if you wanted to fly higher, you couldn't look down because your camera angle is fixed. This caused a good amount of restrictions on set and for shoots for me. So this was one of the features I was the most curious about with the Avata 2. Because DJI has built this end-to-end, they've incorporated so much technology we've already talked about, including the ability to control your gimbal at any time with your controller. It's no longer fixed. You can set it and change it, which is something that you don't get to do with these kinds of custom drones. And this is the first time I'm actually sharing this on video. I've been withholding it due to my pride, but I started to fly this thing more in normal mode while messing with the camera tilt. And honestly, the results I was able to get with it, they have been beyond my expectations. One of the times I used this normal mode was for a client of mine, Daiji, and we filmed his omakase sushi restaurant. Because of this adjustable camera angle, I could now come in at a higher angle while being tilted down. As I flew down into the restaurant, I could level out my camera angle, which is something you could not do with a custom-built drone. I could even fly backwards in normal mode, go up, tilt down, and show the restaurant from a higher altitude level, and then tilt back to normal, fly out, turn around, and then fly backwards while tilting down. Now, this sounds more standard and possible with a regular drone, but when you combine that with the precision and the dynamism of an FPV drone, in my opinion, this unlocks a whole new dimension of angles and possibilities to film with. And for this particular feature, stacked with the flight time, convenience, the portability, the smart modes, the camera quality, and control, all of this has blended together to create such a unique and incredible flying experience that has me coming back to the Avata 2 more than I would like to admit. This might be considered sacrilege to some of the FPV pilots out there who are purists and who love building. I know that there are so many capabilities available for people who go down the route of custom, but I really do believe that the Avata 2 and the future developments that DJI and other companies continue to implement into these FPV drone systems are unlocking totally new possibilities for creation for all of us. As much as I love the Avata 2, it's not perfect, and here are some things I would love to see in future versions. 24 FPS or at least 48 FPS recording, please. Better flight characteristics. The Avata 2 is good, but it's not amazing. There can be improvements made to voltage sag on the drone. If we could have a foldable FPV drone, that'd be amazing. I know that might compromise durability, but just an idea. This would be super awesome, but if DJI made a sub 240G version of a end-to-end drone, something that is safe light enough to be able to fly over open air assemblies, and has all of these safety features that are built into most DJI drones. So, based off of my experience with the Avata 2 over the last year, do I still think that this is worth it today? Well, depending on your situation, it's going to be nuanced. Depends on how custom you want your drone. It depends how easy you want the experience to be. But for me, as someone who loves to travel, loves to carry other camera gear, loves reliability, and also any feature that allows the expansion of creativity, I think it's a yes. Even if a new model comes out soon, I think the Avata 2 is a great drone to have on reserve and to start flying with today. But let me know your thoughts on the Avata 2. If you have any other questions or things I didn't consider in this video, I would love to discuss it with you in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, I think you might enjoy this guy right here. Or this guy. This has been Kai. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!
1 year and hundreds of flights later, this drone has... One more time.